What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. For those that don't know, my name is Alina Smith. I'm a producer and songwriter for acts like ITZY, Red Velvet, Soon Me, Fall Out Boy, Betty Who, and many others. And on this channel, we talk all things music production and songwriting. So if you're not subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button down below. Okay, guys, so today I'm gonna do something that has been requested by many of you, and it is a mixing video. So I've thought of a few ways to go about this, and I thought doing a top 5 mix techniques might be a good place to start. And if you guys have more questions, I can always do a future video. Now, a little disclaimer, I personally don't consider myself a mix engineer. I have mixed a lot of records and I mix all of my own demos. But I'm definitely not like a Serban level mixer, so please don't expect tips of that level from me. What I will help you guys with is techniques, tips, and tricks that I use in a lot of my mixes that really help them sound commercial. You know, I do place a lot of songs with record labels, so I think these tips will really help you guys nail that bigger, better, more commercial sound that you're looking for. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. Okay guys, so the first technique I want to discuss with you is stereo imaging or spatial placement, however you want to name it. It's basically, in layman's term, where things feel they are in the track. On the left, on the right, narrow, wide, that kind of thing. To me, this is a huge part of any good mix. You know, I hear a lot of inexperienced mixes that feel very small, very narrow, while mixes that are done by more experienced engineers are usually, you know, described as large, impactful. They have just everything feels very well balanced. You know what I mean? And spatial placement has a lot to do with that. So I'm going to use my own song Moody as an example. Stream Moody on all platforms. And I will just play a little bit of it for those of you guys that are not familiar with it. And then we'll jump into discussing stereo imaging. I try, but you'll have to forgive me. If I'm not 100, be Gucci, if I'm still a little bit moody. I got some healing left to do. I got salt to pick out on fools. I try, but you'll have to forgive me. If I'm not 100, be Gucci, if I'm still a little bit moody. Okay. The first place I want to go is the background vocals, especially here. This is like the largest background vocal part here. Solo, and it sounds like this. I got. Okay, so I want to show you guys this plugin. This is iZotope's Imager. And what this plugin does, it basically allows you to select a part of the EQ spectrum to widen. Now, there are two types of widening that exist. One is basically micro shifting, not to like nerd out with you guys too much, but what these plugins do is they take your part, they actually copy it 2 more times, put one on the left, one on the right, and then they micro shift them like 5 cents up, 5 cents down, and it creates an illusion of being wider. And then there's also Haas effect, which is like a delay based effect that also makes things feel like they're wider. There's no actually ways to make things actually wider than hard left and hard right. So, but what this plugin does is it lets you pick the part of the EQ range that you want to affect, right? Like a lot of, just like this utility plugin, for example, and Ableton, yeah, you can change the width, it does exactly that, but it's for the whole like track. And here, I am just affecting this frequency, so just the really upper range, like over 10K, like the air, really. Yeah, because basically my lead does not have that much air in this part especially, and I want that air to help these backgrounds stand out. There's also this frequency as well, the 3K to 10K. Basically like the upper mid range. Again, it's not the frequencies I'm emphasizing in my leads. And that's something to think about, right? If you're emphasizing one part of the EQ spectrum, maybe don't emphasize that part on the like conflicting part. If you're trying to separate them, you know, pick the things that you're emphasizing in one and things you're emphasizing in the other and try not to let them step on each other. Okay, so another thing that, especially for beginners, I think is a very simple thing you need to know is just simply panning left and right. I'm sure if you're a producer, you know about panning, but what I want to talk to you guys about is strategic panning. Not necessarily just being like, oh, where should I put this, left or right? How far? Hard left or just a little bit to the, you know what I mean? It's more about being very strategic about it and combining your parts in a way that they sound cohesive the way you pan them, right? For this, I really recommend knowing your track well. If you don't know it very well, it's kind of hard to do this, but just to demonstrate, I'll show you guys. This is a guitar part that's pretty like heavily emphasized in the song. As you can see, it's panning a little bit to the left, just a bit. And then we have another guitar part that's panning a little bit to the right. Together. It's very simple, but it is effective. You know, I'm not trying to spread them really wide. That's another thing you have to keep in mind. Beginners, I think, tend to want to put everything to the hard left and hard right and just have the vocal in the middle. But things tend to disappear that way, especially if something's played back on a mono system. You have to keep that in mind. So don't go too hard left and too hard right on too many things. Otherwise, you'll have no track. You'll have a vocal and a kick and a snare. So, but especially for ornamental parts, you know, anything that is like a non-essential, just trying to figure out like exactly where it goes and why is a really good idea. You know, for example, I have the string part here. It sits nicely right there a little bit to the left, but I also have this part. Another string part that goes a little bit to the right. My idea is that, you know, as you can see, they alternate a little bit. They just switch off. You know, it kind of creates a little bit of movement in the mix. It's nice. Finally, another thing you can do with panning that's super easy is auto panning. Most DAWs come with a plugin that automatically pans for you. I mean, you can also just draw it in, right? If you go to like panning here, you could just go ahead and, you know, draw something in. But if you just want a consistent pan left and right, like you don't need to do this. You could just use something like Auto Pan that comes with Ableton or Pancake, which is a free plugin. So if you're on another DAW, you can use this. Super easy. It just basically, I usually just touch this master knob, like how much it pans, and also like how fast it pans. It's on one bar right here for this part. It's very subtle, like kind of slow, a little bit of panning, but you can almost create like a tremolo effect if you go faster, like with 1/8 notes. It almost sounds like it's kind of pulsing, or 1/4. So it's just something fun to play with, and it makes it really easy to kind of make a mix feel like things are not static, you know? Okay, my next tip that I want to talk to you guys about is specifically about sidechaining. So for those that don't know, the best way to describe sidechaining is imagine two tracks. 1, 2, right? One is feeding into 2. It's going here, and it's letting 2 know how to behave. So let's say 1 is a kick, right? It goes boom, boom, boom. 2 here is boom, boom, boom. And then depending on what you tell it to do, it can turn itself down, you know, and probably most likely duck out of the way of 1. I will demonstrate this is always like kind of trippy to try to understand if you've never seen it before, so I think it's probably best to demonstrate it. This is often done for kicks and 808s or basses. For example, I have this group of kicks here, and I have this 808 here. It's frozen, but let's unfreeze it. I'm using this glue compressor to duck it out of the way of the kicks. Let's just solo this. You can see this. So every time the kick happens, this 808 jumps out of the way. If you hear it soloed, see how it sounds like pulsy? It's because of this. Without it, solid. So this is something that works very well for bass and kicks. I use this pretty much on every track. I don't know any track I have not used this on. Maybe this bass does not duck, because I want to actually hear like the beginning transient of that bass, because it's a feature part for the song, really, this bass. But I would say kicks and like anything long, especially 808s, like this is a good technique to use. I also use sidechaining and ducking in other ways. For example, I'm going to try to explain this. So I do this in most of my songs now. I have these kind of two groups. This group is not in its own group. It just kind of like sits here. And then there's a group in here too. And then it's all in a group. It's hard to explain. But you can like see it. This one is in it. And these are kind of just like free floating in here. So the way this works for me, for my brain, is I put the essentials right here in this section, right? It's usually kick, snares, and bass. Sometimes it's other things that I want to just be very much themselves and not affected by any sort of sidechaining. So it can be like tom, fills, different claps, like things that I want to have a really strong transient, not be turned down by anything. And then I have this group, which is basically like my instruments group. It's percussion and instruments that are not bass. Everything else is in here. And to me, this group is like free game for sidechaining. So, and I have it sidechaining just a little bit to the lead vocals, to the kick, and to the snare. Like if you listen to this, you can see it's pulsing just a little bit. It's not too bad. And mostly where the kick hits. For the vocals, I would encourage you guys to try this, but be careful. It can make a track feel a little bit too pumpy. For this, it worked for me. I don't do this every time, but it is a really easy way to make a vocal just immediately like pop out. She lives. She lives. The vocal lives. I will show you guys one more technique for this as well. This is a plugin that I actually was asked to promote a while ago, but this is not promoted. I just use it now and I like it. It's called Fast Reveal. What you do with plugins like this, so what this is, it's like an AI learning plugin, right? That hears the feed of one track, puts it in here, and then affects whatever group or track you put it on. So I want to feed vocals into this and then affect this instrument group. You in Ableton at least just choose your track in here that's the sidechain track, and then just hit learn and you listen. Okay, right? And yeah, basically you can now play with these settings. You can choose how much it does, how heavy, light, balanced it is. Like if we go to heavy all the way, like just like the biggest it does, right? And you hear this with these leads. Got a lot of shit to recover from. This almost is like non-existent now, right? Got a lot of shit to recover from. And then you can still carry all of the trauma. You can kind of find where it lives, and it's not just dumb ducking, right? It's frequency dependent. So it's listening for the frequencies of my vocal and finding conflicting frequencies in this whole group and turning them down. Be careful with this stuff. You can kind of make your track disappear this way. It might be better used on certain elements like a piano, guitar, anything that might be interfering with something else that you want to feature, but it is a good one. Okay, the next technique I want to talk to you guys about is EQ. Everybody knows about EQ. Everybody uses EQ. And I want to show you guys just some specific techniques that I use that to me just really, really work for me every time. Okay, so you guys know I don't work on instrumental music. I work on all music with vocals, pretty much pop and K-pop. So for me, the lead vocal is the most important part of the song, hands down. Of course, the track is important, but if the top line isn't featured, if they can't understand the words, if they can't hear the vocal, the song's probably not going to sell. And that's what I'm trying to do here. So making the vocal stand out is very important. And we talked about reveal and ducking and sidechaining and all of that, but a lot of this is just simple EQ. I use this plugin called Equalize. You don't have to use this plugin. You can use honestly anything. Spatial EQ is great because you can see it. It could be something else, but what I basically do is I determine which frequencies my vocals pop at, and then those frequencies I turn down in this group, right? This is my everything but the everything but the most important elements group. I need a better name for it. Let me know in the comments if you have one. But basically 800 hertz is where my vocal pops, and you can see right here on the leads, right? That is exactly where it pops. I was not lying to you guys. And then it also pops at 2.8. That's just something I found works for my vocal and a lot of female vocals. But I take these frequencies and I turn them down on this group. So I'll play with it and without it.
I still got a lot of shit to recover from. Still carry all of the
Ta-da! Very subtle, but it reveals the vocal more. It feels less obfuscated. Wow, obfuscated. There you go. It feels less obfuscated by these frequencies, because I know these are the ones that like are the most important ones for me. So, and this is a very common technique you can use for anything, not just vocals. Anything you want to stand out, just determine which of the frequencies you want to stand out the most and turn those down, and conflicting things, and it works every time. It's really simple. There are a lot of other EQ techniques. For example, I don't like to have bass frequencies in anything that isn't a bass. That's just like a clean pop mixing production technique. But yeah, if you even listen to this group right here, it has a little bit of like lower mids. Don't get rid of those. Be careful. Don't get rid of your lower mids, because your lower mids and your bass frequencies are not one and the same. For a less experienced ear, they can sound like the same thing, but I'll just kind of show you guys what happens if you get rid of them.
yeah, I'm better. That don't mean no days are good days.
It just sounds immediately like a lost its juice and sauce. I don't know. But everything like below 60, below 80, gone. Gone. Another thing that I do with EQ pretty much every time is just there's certain instruments that pretty much just need to have really high frequencies emphasized. Usually hats and tambourines. This tambourine probably already had it. Yeah, it's already very bright, but if it wasn't, I probably would have either not chosen it or emphasized the exactly like this is what I would do, just like shelve it a little bit in the plus 5K plus range, right? And don't, it's take it case by case, but like 95% of songs that I do, hats, tambourines always like needs a little bit of that shimmer at the top. And then everything else, I don't think I necessarily have like this is a technique that works every time for guitars or for piano. That's where you start really kind of using your ear. And that can take a long time, and don't get frustrated. If you are struggling with that, and you can find all these guides. I've seen all these guides online that are like, this is where you should turn up your piano, and this is where you should turn up your guitar. But there's so many tones, there's so many ways to play a piano. It can be very sharp attack. It can be very pretty, like legato parts. It just really depends. So, but the techniques I mentioned are the ones that pretty much work every time for me, at least. Okay, this will be a very quick one. I mostly want to just demonstrate this on vocals, guys, but I think a really great way to make a vocal pop is adding a little bit of saturation. A little bit goes a long way, because it's really easy to like make it sound crunchy. But for example, on this lead, I have just a little bit of drive from Decapitator. If you listen to it soloed,
I still got a lot of shit to recover from.
without it,
Still carry all of the trauma in my bones. I try, but you'll have to.
I like that little bit of dirt, a little bit of crunchiness on it. That sounds really, really good to me. You can also do this with, gosh, I have a lot of plugins on here. You can do this with a bit crusher as well. RC20 is a good one. There's a lot of really good modules in this little plugin. It sucks though, you have to turn them down every time. Off, off, off. Let's just use this as the bit crusher. So a lot of the times the mix is really helpful. Like I can just turn it up with a lot.
I still got a lot of shit to recover from. Still carry all of the trauma in my bones. I try, but you'll have to forgive me.
Do you see what I mean? That little bit of that very high, harsh high end, just a touch of it can make a vocal pop a little bit. I can almost hear like a verse without a bunch of stuff on it.
Smiling through the memories of all the shit that tried to take me down.
This is really subtle stuff, you guys. But it can be powerful. And of course you can also use these for effects, right? This is more production, but you can like crank it up for a certain word or something, and it's like, oh my god, this was this like angry moment, right? With a lot of saturation or bit crush. You can have a lot of fun with that. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is transient shaping. This is something I use in every single song. There's not a single exception. I transient shape the hell out of everything I ever do. Now I'm gonna, for those that don't know, transient shaping is basically affecting the attack and the decay of your sound, right? Let's say it's a lot of times on drums is like where it really lives. Like let's say this is your snare, right? Like that very first hit, that's the attack. I personally, for the style of music that I do, I most of the time like my drums to be like extremely transient heavy. I want those like bam, 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 like very sharp hitting snares, kicks, fills, claps, just about everything. It's very rare for me to consciously choose something that has a bit of a slower attack on it. There's usually like a stylistic reason behind that. Usually I'm trying to emulate maybe a vintage type of style, something, there's some reason for it, but like 95% of the time, I'm transient shaping to make things more attacky. For example, this is a plugin I use a lot specifically for kick transient shaping because just like iZotope Imager, you can select like which part of the EQ to shape, which I really like. I don't want to just take the whole sound. Oftentimes I just want like a part of the EQ spectrum to turn more attacky or less attacky. So yeah, if we hear these kicks right here. You know, I am specifically transient shaping the lower region. The lower region, that sounds kind of dirty. That's not what I meant. The lowest part of the EQ spectrum. And if we solo this, you can hear how this hits. You have to be careful with this. This crunches like right away. Like, yeah, it's a lot. You know what I mean? You can also adjust the mix right here. Oh yeah, they were soloing. Not soloing. You can also take other parts, like let's say I really liked like more of the upper mids or so. I can also make those more attack heavy. Like if I want more click on my kick, maybe I want this to be a little like very short. That sounds actually really good. Actually, I really like that. So yeah, if I just unsolo it, you know, maybe like a little bit less. I want like just a touch of that. Try what you have to forgive me. If I'm not 100, be Gucci, if I'm still a little bit booty. That actually made the kick pop out so much more. So, you know, a great technique to use. Another one I use right here, I didn't even have to search, this is probably my most commonly used transient plugin. It's called Transient Designer. This one is an emulation of this SPL like actual gear. It's from UAD, but there's also I think one from Plugin Alliance. I believe. But this is so simple to use. You just basically go ahead and increase the attack. If you want, decrease the attack. Do you hear what I mean? It makes it sound almost like there's like a fade in the beginning of it. So this is really great for just making drums pop out a little bit more. And is a great tool because this is an easy way to make a drum part stand out without having to EQ it. All right, guys, and I finally have a bonus round for you because this was my 5 tips, but I thought of another one. And this one is bonus too because it's technically not a mixed tip, but I think it is a mixed tip. So, and the category is sound selection. So obviously that sounds like it's production, right? But these days, from everything I see, production and mixing is becoming a lot more conjoined, right? I'm kind of mixing a lot as I produce, and so do many producers that I work with. Because the thing is, you know, we are all presenting our demos to record labels and stuff like that. They have to sound good. They have to pretty much sound like the final. And a lot of the times what ends up happening, I give them my stems, they send it to a mixer, and they sort of just tweak what I did. They make it better, but it isn't one of those situations of like, oh, okay, well, now it has to be mixed. Oh boy, hopefully it sounds good, right? It already sounds good. They're just elevating it even further because they're like a pro mixer that specializes just in mixing. So, for example, I want to play around with a kick and just show you guys what I mean, right? So I have this kick here.
just to grow up, yeah, I'm better. Yeah.
Right, I have like a kick top and just a bottomy kick layered. Okay, I think it sounds good. It really works for what I wanted, which was to feature my vocal in the bass. But let's just, for funsies, just import some other kicks in here. Let me grab this one and listen with it.
Smiling through the memories of all the.
Okay, yeah, let's just grab another one and try it. Let's do this one.
Smiling through the memories of all the.
To me, that sounds really, really off, you know? It's very, like, hoofy. Like, there's a lot of lower mids in there. It's too long. You know, yeah, of course I can shorten it and stuff.
Smiling through the memories.
Still, I don't really like the attack on it. I don't like the timbre, you know, even if I try to transpose it up or down.
Smiling through the memories.
Like, yeah, I could try to shape it and stuff, but, like, why do I need to do that when I can just go ahead and find the right sample? Or let's try, I don't know, this one, for example.
Smiling through the memories.
It's too big, even if we turn it down a bit.
Smiling through the memories.
There's too much sub, there's not enough attack, it's too long. Again, yeah, if I gave this, like, I mixed this, but let's say I gave this to a mixer, yeah, they probably could, like, make it work-ish, but I really strongly suggest that all of your sounds, you really double check them before you send something off to a mix engineer, because you don't really want them fixing things, right? You want them to get a great track that's really well produced and they just make it better. So, and this is something I see that a lot of people that are more like just starting out and experienced, they think the mixer's going to fix that, and I'm like, no, that's just a poor sound choice for your song. And I do find that this really, really applies to everything but drums, especially snares and kicks. Is like, I always double check those. A lot of the times I will pick, like, when I'm producing, you guys see how fast I produce, I will pick like whatever, the first thing that comes to mind, but I will always like take a look again and really audition a bunch of samples and find the right ones. So yeah, definitely don't be thinking that a mixer is going to fix it for you, because most likely they can't. So make the right choices from the get-go. All right, guys, and that's pretty much it. If you have questions, pop them in the comments down below. I will answer, whether it's about mixing or about something else related to music or anything else you guys want to ask me. And I think on that note, I'm gonna go. If you're not subscribed yet and you like these types of videos, I make them pretty much every week. No promises, but so far I've been pretty consistent. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And yeah, if you like this video, give it a like, because it does help other people find the channel and find this information that might help them. So I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye.